Reluctant Entrepreneur Tarot. I'm Diana Ideus, Master Coach, and I'm taking you behind the scenes for the Reluctant Entrepreneur, both the tarot deck as well as the title card, card 12, Reluctant Entrepreneur. Even before there was a tarot deck, there was a podcast episode and season. So Jason Spector was kind enough to host me on Cross Street Coaching for episodes 1 to 18 to talk about my journey as a reluctant entrepreneur. Entrepreneur was something I had a lot of reluctance about, I had a lot of challenge with, I had a lot of struggle with. So actually, if you even can see on this screen or zoom in, it says reluctant, disinclined, cautious. There's also a number of other words highlighted, talking about surrender, resigning without struggle, count, reckon, bank, relying. And what's interesting as well is just even as I look closer, trust stresses unquestioning faith. It talks about individual strength and being wholly confident. So the amazing thing is that, I let Jason know, hey, the dictionary pages speak to me. I have a lot of reluctance about this. So this was a page that he pulled, and then he pulled the kind of water to sky gradation. Being a native Californian and living near the ocean, and then also learning to improve my ability to swim laps in the process of my entrepreneurial reluctance. It was actually very helpful for me to equate some of that process and that learning process that I was struggling so much with on the entrepreneurial side to on the physical side, and an ability to kind of better my swim strokes and better my time. So, that's some of where it came from. I wasn't really sure how to share this information. I wasn't sure who it was for. I had a desire to capture the reluctance of my entrepreneurial journey before that reluctance faded. I felt that if it could help other reluctant entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs or people considering entrepreneurship, whether or not they picked it, I so often associated entrepreneur with other, and it didn't match my own experience. And what's interesting as well, food for thought on the water side, as we think about water signs, there's a lot of intuition associated. So, unbeknownst to me, this actually evolved into a tarot deck. And so you'll see correlation between the podcast background and that same gradation from water to sky and looking at waves in the actual development of the tarot deck. So for the title card, card 12, Reluctant Entrepreneur, we have a woman suspended at peace, but suspended over water, specifically water with waves in it, which can be calming and refreshing, and also can be very dangerous. So, for me, the reluctant entrepreneur path, I was not calm. I was not at peace. The suspension like this takes incredible strength, and I did feel like I was about to drown at any moment. Another thing, though, when you think about it from an intuitive perspective, and this relates to the quote associated with this card, I responded to the gravity of an invisible moon at my core, and I undertook journeys I had not expected to take. So this quote for this particular card is very personal to me and personal on my reluctant entrepreneur journey. So looking at that pull towards entrepreneurship, even when there's doubts and there's fears. And the card 12 in the tarot deck. So some of you are familiar with business, some of you are familiar with tarot, some both, some neither. But the intent of these videos is just to kind of double click and dig a little bit deeper. But the card 12 in tarot is the Hanged Man. So you see the correlation here. You have someone suspended, they're upside down. The idea of the Hanged Man is it's the peace and the perspective. It's not necessarily time to take action yet. It's not necessarily time to make movement yet. There's a kind of examination of what is, an examination of the challenges. It's heading into sometimes what's a harder part of the journey, but there's a level of peace and perspective and awareness. So one of the things I think about as a reluctant entrepreneur is, am I stronger as an entrepreneur now because I was reluctant, because I had those doubts and had to address those doubts? Did that make me stronger in my journey? I do wish I was a bit calmer. If I had had this deck instead of made this deck, I think that probably would have been helpful to me to see, okay, you're at a point where you're examining your data and your options, and maybe it's not time to move yet. or the move feels out of your control. So just calling that to light, that's part of why the correlations between this card is why the Reluctant Entrepreneur was chosen for the Hanged Man. So one of the things I'll do in these videos is reference resources that helped me learn on my tarot journey as well as my entrepreneur journey. So Rachel Pollack says about the Hanged Man, after the crisis of seeing what you have made of your life comes the peace of acceptance. After justice, the Hanged Man. So one of the things that was helpful for me was to have a creative outlet where I could learn. And I was already up to my ears and eyes, almost drowning in the kind of entrepreneurial learning. But the tarot learning was a way for me to invest in the more kind of creative side, creative, intuitive side. And so one of the things as you think about or look at the deck, we have the card that precedes it is Justice. And so for you tarot fans out there, you see that this has the justice scales in it. For those of you more familiar in business, an executive dashboard is a way of coolly and calmly looking at your data and having that analysis so that you can make better decisions. And so when we think about the cards that precede this, if you look at your patterns, you look at what happened, whether it was what you wanted to happen or didn't happen, which is very kind of Wheel of Fortune in this particular deck is patterns. Then there's that kind of calm analysis, not emotional, looking at that data. What is serving you? Where are you going strategically? What perhaps do you need to pursue? And then the Hanged Man is that moment where it's looking at it from a different perspective, examining what you've learned. So illustrating not only the reluctant entrepreneur in this particular video, but also taking a look back, and then we'll take a look forward a little bit later. So one of the things in the deck includes questions to consider. These are on the website as well. So in the spirit of questions to consider, if you draw a reluctant entrepreneur or this card speaks to or calls to you, is how might reluctance be serving and protecting you? How might yielding or non-action support you in your situation? What insights come up when you look at your situation another way? And what if delay and acceptance are just part of the process? So as you see, the questions are designed both with the reluctant entrepreneur process and then also the Hanged Man meaning in mind. If you are on the website or want to kind of double click even more, as I mentioned, season 4, episode 1 talks about what is the reluctant entrepreneur. And the song that I chose for the reluctant entrepreneur is The Gambler by Kenny Rogers. And that spirit of what's interesting is actually in the song, they're on a quote, train bound for nowhere. So there is that kind of surrender. There's that movement, but they're not moving. And in the spirit of reluctant entrepreneur, he talks about, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You don't count your money when you're sitting at the table. So I encourage you to listen to this song and reflect on the card, because there is that moment of suspension. You're analyzing, what do you know? What's a different way of looking at it? What's a different perspective? I think what's also interesting about this song, this just felt like the natural choice for this card as I was continuing on my creative endeavors to kind of explore the meanings of my journey and also what this could look like as a creative endeavor, is the gambler dies at the end of the song. It sounds kind of dramatic, but and somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even, and then he talks about his final words. And so in the tarot journey, following tarot is the death card or closure. So you have that calm, that suspension, that difference in perspective. And then there are things that burn away or end or close or change. But then he talks about the gambler breaking even. So it's that balance, knowing when to hold them, fold them, walk away or run. And I think that really correlates to the reluctant entrepreneur, because it was challenging for me to get over that reluctance and that understanding. And then also know, my relationship with risk changed, my relationship with perspective changed. What battles am I going to choose? What paths am I going to take? What things are going to end? How do I have that balance in my life? So just giving you a preview of the cards that came before and also the cards that came after. and some of the research and the songs and just the things that spoke to me. So there's more information on reluctantentrepreneur.com. If you want to watch more videos, you can read the description, both of the Reluctant Entrepreneur and also the Hangman. The questions to consider were shared in this video. The podcast episode is linked there. And if you'd like to learn more or spend more time with us on Reluctant Entrepreneur, there's coaching sessions, other products you can buy, and of course, you can get the deck. So thank you for taking this time to learn more about the Reluctant Entrepreneur Tarot. Hope you enjoyed this video and look forward to following up.